I'm going to speculate as to why all of the media and our political leaders are whipping up hysteria over this idea of global pandemic. Our central banks and our governments have created a financial crisis by using unbacked, debt-based fiat currency, unlimited government borrowing, and impossibly escalating levels of taxation to service all the debt. We are very near now the end of our monetary cycle where debt can no longer be sustained. Currencies everywhere are being overprinted and nearing collapse. Equity markets are irreparably overvalued, and our currency systems must undergo a major reset. As they desperately issue helicopter money for bailouts and giveaways, the currency will sharply inflate, and trillions of dollars of monetary value will simply disappear for most of us, as those who control currency will collect that wealth. In this process, many people worldwide will suffer losses, poverty, disruption, and sacrifice. Most people are not aware that this disaster was predictable and inevitable. Bankers and elite officials do know what is coming, and they know that people will see that they are to blame for this disaster unless they can come up with a scapegoat. Scapegoats come in the form of things like terrorism, global warming, and global viral pandemics. Manufacturing or exploiting some global threat not only allows blame for the economic disaster to be diverted from central banks and government officials, but also gives an excuse to impose authoritarian public policies so that riots and civil unrest can be harshly dealt with by state-sponsored violence and force. We are being suckered to accept a huge new set of restrictions on our lifestyles and personal liberties, so we will be powerless against official policy. And some kind of new world order can be imposed that without some fabricated crisis would meet violent public opposition. We have been made to believe that we must radically change our lives because of a pandemic. But we're actually changing our lives to relieve central banks and our legislators from the blame for what's happening to our economy. We have seen major stock market crashes. We have seen years of near zero interest rates. We are seeing public debt now multiplying by trillions of dollars per year. Just as central bank and government insiders have expected, our corrupt global economic and currency systems are unraveling. We now see that not only is public debt unsustainable, but even corporate and private debt are at levels where that debt can never be paid off. It's a mathematical impossibility. The cause of the collapse, the depression, the austerity, poverty, and social disorder is not a COVID-19 pandemic. The cause of the economic collapse is worthless, unbacked, debt-based currency, bad economic policy, greed, and irresponsible conduct by government and central bankers, and their belief that they can plunder the world's workers and business owners decade after decade until everything crashes, then pass the blame off onto some unrelated calamity that they either create themselves or exploit to their benefit. In 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, future economic disasters like we are seeing today were unavoidable. But you are being asked to blame a virus for this supposedly unexpected economic meltdown. The lockdowns, the people forced to not work, the companies forced to not produce, the debtors who will be made unable to pay their debts, the quarantines, curfews, martial law tactics imposed, this whole insane reaction to an alleged pandemic will cause major economic damage. That is what it's designed to do. So all economic failures and crises from now on can be blamed on a virus, not on the people who created the economic corruption in the first place. We do not need to beat a virus. We need to prevent another fake, unbacked currency from replacing the last one. We need to prevent debt and taxation from accruing to pay for exploding public debt and financial mismanagement. We need to demand that no one pledge our future labor to pay for their greedy indulgences. As we slather our living spaces with toxic sanitizing chemicals, as we give up our true social contacts and become even more addicted to our tracked and monitored electronic social media platforms, as we allow idiotic government policies to close our businesses and destroy our jobs, would this not be a good time to think for ourselves and consider whether we are being told the truth, whether we are being used and set up by liars and corrupt officials for their own benefit? Can we do anything to reclaim our lives, our prosperity and hope? Or will we simply believe whatever we are told and obey whatever we are told to do? Obedience and complacency can be good, or it can be a terrible mistake. Trusting media and politicians can be good, or it can be a terrible mistake. I would argue that trusting this pandemic hysteria and participating in economic suicide is a terrible mistake.